Toronto, the city of growth and opportunities that are here for the taking. The city of diversity with talent that has greatness in the making. The city that is fearless and persistent. Most importantly, the city that is resilient. Resilience is the ability to survive, adapt, and thrive in the face of any challenge. Flooding, heat waves, blizzards, and cold snaps can come as shocks, yet we still manage. Power outages leave us in the cold, yet we still bounce back. Aging infrastructure, traffic congestion, expensive housing, and poverty and inequality stress and stretch our communities to the max, but life goes on. Now it's time for you to see stories of resilience that are inspirational and profound.
Hello, my name is Josie. I am First Nations, Anishinaabe First Nations of the Algonquin First Nations up in Chippewa, Quebec, Temiskaming. My resiliency of alcoholism through the years up until the time that I sobered up. I went to school in Campbell's Bay, moved from Campbell's Bay to Aylmer to Ottawa, and along there my alcoholism started. I was thrown out of school in high school at age 16 because of my drinking. It just wasn't there. I never showed up. Then we moved to Toronto in 1987. My resiliency to alcoholism up until the time that I sobered up, I've been through a lot of the homelessness. I lived on the home in the shelter. I lived on the street when I first moved to Toronto. Couldn't find a place because of my drinking, because of my addiction. Then I found a place to live. I was a superintendent for a while, and that lasted for a bit. But because of my alcoholism, I couldn't hang on to a job, couldn't hang on to finances, couldn't hang on to relationships. And in 1990 was my final drink. October 23rd, 1990 is when I sobered up. I lost my brother 6 years ago today, December 20th. He died in a nursing home. And it was a direct result of alcoholism. He fell down a flight of stairs years ago and wasn't able to recover. Today is his anniversary death, is when he passed away. Been through my struggles. Now I'm in university today. I'm in university studying my Indigenous studies. I've been through George Brown years ago. And today I'm studying to be, I don't know what I'm going to do with my degree, but I'm going to move on somewhere. I just want to be able to help my own people, help my own Anishinaabe people. We are a resilient type. As myself, we've been resilient people, resiliency through residential schools, 60 Scoop. And we are resilient, and I am a resilient person because I came from my alcoholism into my sobriety, into my recovery. And today I'm celebrating 28 years of sobriety is a lot for me, a person who couldn't stay sober not even a minute.
My name is Husam and I am from Ottawa. My resilience story started off as a child. I grew up isolated in marginalized communities. I managed to graduate college and I thought, yes, I finally escaped the jungle. I couldn't be further from the truth. The reality is, I was bouncing around job after job, working dead-end jobs with no way out of that hostile environment. Having no ways out led to my darkest days. I fell heavy into depression. I was isolated, and suicide was on my mind on a constant basis. To get a grip of my life, I know something had to be changed. I know I had to move forward. That's when I came up with the idea that I needed to move to the city of Toronto. Finding a housing in Toronto was very difficult. I felt ashamed and I felt like a failure because I was a burden on a lot of my friends. Now, every time I went to see a different place or apartment or look for roommates, it was very difficult. Many landlords did not accept my application. They didn't process it, or I simply didn't hear back from them. It made me feel broken. It made me feel like I was a failure. It made me feel ashamed because I was couch surfing. Being colored, and visible minority, and Muslim, it was difficult for me to find employment and work. Luckily for me, I was fortunate enough to enroll into many youth-oriented programs such as Youth Employment Services, BizStart, and BITS. Being in these programs did not only provide me with the mentorship and the resources I needed to find a place, but they facilitated for me to go find an apartment, to find a roommate, to build my business and thrive on it. Now I have something to show landlords like, hey, I do have income. I want to rent this place. I can afford it. I can focus on photography and video work and scale that where I can sustain myself. Now, although I'm a little bit struggling still, I am truly humbled and blessed that I am living in the city of Toronto doing the things that matter to me.
Hi, my name is Keosha. I grew up in a really marginalized neighborhood, but I think the most challenging thing for me growing up in those neighborhoods was being a Black woman. Being a Black woman is really challenging for me because I feel I'm being oppressed from two different identities, for being Black, but also being a woman. And that's really hard because you're constantly being underestimated, you're constantly being challenged, and you're constantly being, your buttons being pushed. People around me were also going through similar things, like my mother and my siblings. I grew up with my single mother, and being the oldest, I saw how hard and how much she struggled, to provide for us. And I felt like these conversations don't get talked about in Toronto as much as they should be talked about. We don't really talk about the racism and the oppression and the challenges that Black women face on a regular basis. Those conversations are usually kept under the rug, or it's the elephant in the room. Not even our parents teach us how to deal with racism, how to deal with dark skin, how to deal with really kinky hair, how to deal with bullying. Because I didn't have other Black women, supporting me or encouraging me, it was really struggling, and it felt like we were competing against each other and battling this thing alone instead of battling it together. And that's the thing with oppression. When you are constantly being attacked from different people who don't share your experiences, you start to bully each other and you start to hate each other and hate yourself. And I noticed that was a real experience for a lot of Black women like myself who grew up not loving what they looked like and didn't like their hair, didn't like the way they looked, didn't like the way they sounded because of bullying, because of oppression, because of racism. And that was my everyday experience. And just going through these experiences and knowing what my mother felt like, what my sisters felt like, what I was feeling like, I knew I wanted to do something that changed this narrative of what Black women are like, but as well as change the narrative of what all women are like. In 2016, I founded a community organization called Our Women's Voices. OWV is a platform for women to share their experiences, their stories, and their art in order to empower other women around the world. It started off as an online platform where their stories were being featured on our Instagram page, and people could connect and relate and resonate with experiences other women were having. After seeing the response of the online stories, I knew I wanted to do something where all these women could actually connect in real life and talk about these things and have an actual physical conversation, not just online. The most important part of Our Women's Voices is giving women a safe space to speak, because in this society, in this patriarchal society, we are often told to shut up. And I think it's important that we encourage women to speak up when needed, and to speak about things that they're passionate about, to speak about things that are bothering them or hurting them, and to not feel silenced, and not to feel like if they speak, they're going to get in trouble, or they're going to be bashed, or they're going to be blamed or victimized. And that's why I love doing Our Women's Voices, because it empowers other women to talk about their experiences and use their voice.
Now you've seen their stories. You've seen how they thrived on the road to glory. They've survived challenges, adapted to unpredictable situations, overcame personal complications. Most importantly, remained persistent. That's how we'll all stay resilient.